Thank you, Chuck, for coming to visit with us here in Fairfield, Iowa. My introduction to you is today. I'm getting to know you just a little bit over the last week, but it was really nice to sit and have a nice conversation with you. It sounds like you've spent much of your life researching these topics around, well, you're an ag economist. You were one of the first consultants brought in for the Monsanto case around non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. You were an adjunct professor at the University, Washington State University. What was that? Center for Sustainable Ag and
Natural Resources.
And Natural Resources. So you've got a really wide breadth of knowledge around agriculture and all the processes that are currently hitting us pretty hard here in the U.S. You've spent the last 12 days here in Iowa, or 11. Tomorrow will be your 12th. What have you been doing over the last 12 days?
I was invited by the Iowa Farmers Union to attend some of their listening sessions around the state with members of the legislature to speak about the impacts of the pesticide preemption or indemnification bill that would eliminate failure to warn claims in pesticide litigation, because this has been a complex legal issue that I've dealt with in my entire professional life. I was the staff director of a subcommittee in the House Agriculture Committee in 81, 82, 83. Wow. This is when Reagan the first Reagan presidency, and the pesticide industry wanted to change FIFRA two ways. That FIFRA is the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. That's the federal statute that governs how pesticides are regulated and labeled in the U.S. And the pesticide industry was hoping, now that the Republicans controlled two of the three parts of the Congress and the executive branch, to amend FIFRA to preempt the role of states in pesticide regulation, so that whatever is on the EPA label, the federal label, that's it. That applies to everywhere. And the second thing that they wanted to change were they wanted to amend the law to make it easier to get cancer-causing pesticides onto the market, and also easier to keep pesticides that come to be recognized as a carcinogen on the market. And so there was an intense effort for those 3 years, but FIFRA was not amended then. And actually the industry has been working on the preemption front, which is the focus of the legislation before the Iowa legislature. They've been working basically continuously since 1981 to get those changes embodied in federal and state law, and they haven't done it yet.
Where do you think we're at with that?
Well, I mean, it's very few people understand what a huge impact this simple, short bill that the members of the Iowa legislature are being asked to pass. But I can assure you it will have significant impacts on what pesticides get registered and labeled for which uses, and the ability of states to put requirements on labels that will assure that a specific pesticide will be used as safely in Iowa as it is in Indiana or Illinois. And this is, this is really important, because I don't know how many of your viewers caught Trump's first cabinet meeting, which was 2 days ago. The administrator of EPA, when it was his turn to talk, he told the president and the other cabinet officials that he felt that they were going to be able to cut the EPA staff by 65%. Now, if you're the pesticide industry and you're always frustrated about how slow EPA is in approving your new pesticide labels or getting things done that you as a company need to be able to sell effective, safe products to Iowa farmers and farmers in California, you're not going to be happy about a 65% staff cut in the Office of Pesticide Programs. Obviously, that's going to limit the degree to which federal EPA is going to be able to address the huge diversity in how pesticides are used around the country. And not just in ag, but in non-ag settings, like around schools, in homes, in businesses. And so right now, given what's going on in Washington, it's not the time to undercut the role of state regulatory agencies and state scientists, land-grant university weed scientists in the pesticide risk assessment and regulatory process. But that would be one of the unintended outcomes from this bill if it passes in Iowa or any of the other 21 states that they're trying to get it passed in.
So you've been on a tour in Iowa, speaking to farmers, to representatives, and trying to just educate them around the importance of maintaining.
I'm a resource person. I've worked way deep down into the weeds on. FIFRA is a complicated statute, and there are some surely very complicated interpretations and matters of law that have been adjudicated all the way to the Supreme Court that form the way that failure to warn claims are dealt with in litigation. And one of the things that I just want to make sure that all farmers know, there's no way that the litigation that's going on or this bill or if this bill doesn't pass, it is not going to take Roundup away. Roundup is a hugely important herbicide. It has many safe uses. It is not in regulatory jeopardy at all. And farmers need to know that. However, Roundup does need to be reformulated in the United States to make the new Roundup as safe as the Roundup that Monsanto has been selling since 2017 in the 28 countries in the EU. And the other thing is, Monsanto has been resisting even the most common sense, inexpensive requirements on the label to reduce your exposure. I mean, let's say you go out with your little handheld
pump sprayer,
and you've got that wand. Well, you know, those wands usually leak a little bit.
Yep.
And so if you go out and spray without gloves on, you get a fair amount on your hand.
Or your shorts on.
Or right. If you, a lot of people that have been plaintiffs in the litigation, they sprayed Roundup for 20 or 30 years wearing flip-flops and shorts. And they walk right through where they sprayed.
Yeah.
Because they were told it was safe. Some of them were told it was safe enough to drink. And for all of them, it got on their legs, got on their hands, and they never got sick. It didn't bother them. They didn't get a rash. So they put the evidence that they were aware of together and said, well, gee, I guess it's not toxic.
Because there wasn't an immediate observed response.
Right. They didn't understand what the glyphosate was doing to their stem cells and increasing their risk of blood cancers like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So actually there are other pesticides like glyphosate and glyphosate-based herbicides that are not acutely toxic, and so people just use them in any way they want, and they're highly exposed. But some of them are chronically toxic, so they increase the risk of cancer, liver problems, reproductive problems. So that's that's really unfortunate.
Wow. And so right now, you know, I know that you have to make your way soon over to a talk where you're gonna share more about this at our Fairfield Public Library in just moments. But what can our farmer neighbors who might have these concerns about how to keep themselves safe, you know, not knowing, you know, if the label doesn't explicitly state how to use this product in a way to have you know, systemic safety.
Well, so farmers and people working on large commercial farms that operate sprayers, it's very fortunate. They're getting up into a steel glass cab. Almost all of them have a very effective air filtration system. So when they're actually driving the sprayer, whether it's a tractor pulling a sprayer or a spray rig that's just for that, their exposures while they're applying are almost nothing.
So what about us farmer neighbors who are out there pruning our orchard trees?
Well, it's not just the neighbors nearby, it's also the farmers or the applicators that during the workday they're driving the rig on their farms spraying, but they also spray Roundup around their homes to control weeds where the kids play, or around the shop or the grain bin or along fence lines or along the driveway. And when they do those weekend applications, they're using the same kind of handheld equipment that most non-farmers that have weed control challenges on their property, even in the middle of a city.
Yeah.
People want to control the weeds in their driveway, so they go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart and they buy the ready-to-use product, and it's got this hand wand, and the label doesn't tell them to wear gloves, but it's really a good idea to wear gloves and long sleeve pants and at least shoes and socks. And if you're going to do a lot and kind of walk through where you sprayed so that you actually feel your shoes getting a little wet, maybe even soaking through to your socks, the next time you do it, you should put rubber boots on. Everybody's got rubber boots, mud boots for the winter. So when you're spraying, you know, herbicides around the house, wear your rubber boots, and then you reduce by 20 to 40 fold what you would be exposed to, and that's just common sense.
Common sense. And for consumers who are concerned about pesticides and maybe you know herbicides that are systemic, what do we need to do to protect ourselves?
Well, you know, herbicides are one way to kill weeds, but there's a lot of other ways. If they're in your lawn, just mow your lawn a little bit more often. And you know, you can always pull weeds. You can mulch them.
Yeah.
But if you are going to use herbicides, use them in a smart way when they'll be effective, and then wear gloves, wear long sleeve, you know, long pants. Again, chemical resistant boots if you've got it. I mean, you know, any rubber boot is chemical resistant. And just be cautious, even though, you know, you've been told that this particular herbicide is safe, because at some level of exposure, almost anything isn't safe, from coffee to salt.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, opt to pull the weeds and know that the weeds are your friends. They're usually there telling you something about the system that you're working with, and you can deal with them in so many different ways. And I think also we don't get those. I think farmers are going to be a lot more judicious with the quantities of inputs that they put on their fields because of, you know, the economics of it. They're really, you know, precision ag is a really wonderful thing. It's really trying to be so precise, but when you're thinking about a consumer who can grab a gallon off of the local box store shelf at our farm store, that economic concern is not there, and so we are applying it in quantities that are more than we should, and it can be picked up with rainfall, and then it makes its way into our ecosystems.
Right. It's part of the world we live in now.
Yeah, it's in our rainfall. I could sit and talk to you for a very long time. I'm sorry that we have a short interview window, but I want to get you to your next opportunity. So I'm going to say thank you so much, Chuck. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I hope that I will read your paper, and I hope the work that you've done here over the last 12 days has the effect that you hope that it will, and I know that we're all rallying behind you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.